You'll never be as good as your sister. Those words were like a curse spoken so often they stopped sounding cruel and started sounding inevitable. At every family dinner, school event, or neighborhood gathering, Vanessa was reminded that she was merely a shadow. Her older sister, Delilah, was the Golden Girl former beauty queen Ivy League graduate, and now the CEO of a rising skincare empire. Meanwhile, Vanessa was the other one, the girl who tried hard, but never quite had it. But what if the perfect sister wasn't perfect at all, and what if the forgotten one was about to uncover a secret so shocking it would flip their entire family upside down? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about justice, courage, and learning that sometimes the only way to shine is to step away from the spotlight. If stories like this move, you don't forget to subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps this channel grow. Vanessa grew up in the same home, ate at the same table, but lived in a completely different world from her sister. While Delilah's walls were lined with trophies and glowing praise, Vanessa's victories were met with silence or side eyes. Their parents, especially their mother, poured every ounce of pride into Delilah, calling her our family's legacy. Vanessa was told to be more like her, more graceful, more ambitious, more everything. She tried. Oh, she tried, but the harder Vanessa worked, the more invisible she became. Until the day she stumbled upon a locked file on her sister's laptop. What she found inside was the beginning of something dark, something that would unravel the very image her family worshipped. And that discovery would lead Vanessa down a road she never expected to take. Vanessa remembered her 8th grade science fair like it had just happened yesterday. She had spent weeks perfecting her project, a solar water purifier made from recycled materials. Her presentation board was neat, her data meticulously collected, and her demonstration impressed even the grumpiest science teacher. She was awarded 3rd place in the district competition. Excited, she ran home with the certificate in hand. "Mom, look, I won," she beamed. But her mother barely glanced up from her phone. "That's nice, honey," she said. "But did you hear Delilah just got invited to represent the state at nationals for debate? That's huge." The certificate drooped in Vanessa's hands like a withering flower. Moments like that happened so often, she lost count. Every minor achievement of hers was overshadowed by one of Delilah's triumphs. In high school, Vanessa tried everything: drama club, the swim team, even student council. But no matter what she did, Delilah had already done it bigger, better, and earlier. Her parents would often joke, "Guess greatness skipped a sibling," always followed by laughter that didn't include her. What made it worse was that Delilah wasn't mean. She was poised, polite, and seemed genuinely unaware of how much her little sister was suffering in silence. That made Vanessa's pain feel petty. How could she resent someone who didn't even know? They were hurting her. The truth was, Vanessa didn't hate Delilah. She hated being compared to Delilah. After high school, Vanessa didn't get into an Ivy League. Instead, she went to a decent state college, paid her own way through part-time jobs, and graduated with a marketing degree and no fanfare. Her parents came to graduation, but left early to catch Delilah's speech at a women's entrepreneurship summit downtown. Vanessa sat alone in her cap and gown, sipping watered-down punch, wondering if this was how her entire life was going to feel, like she was applauding from the sidelines of someone else's victory. But she didn't give up. She worked at a small PR agency for 2 years, then moved to a nonprofit where she coordinated community events. The pay wasn't great, but she was good at it. For the first time, she felt like she had found her rhythm. Still, the shadow followed her. Whenever she introduced herself and people asked, "Wait!" Delilah Carter's sister, her stomach would knot. The second they made the connection, their tone would change. The awe in their voice wasn't for Vanessa. It never had been. One particularly bitter moment came during a family Thanksgiving dinner. Her aunt leaned in and said, "Vanessa, your sister just got featured in Forbes. When are you going to do something impressive?" Vanessa smiled politely. "I just organized a fundraiser that brought in $50,000 for our shelter." The table went quiet for a second before someone asked Delilah if she was hiring. By the time Vanessa turned 29, she had stopped expecting recognition. Instead, she focused on doing good work, making real connections, and living a quiet, honest life. But that didn't mean she had stopped hurting, especially because Delilah's face was everywhere. Billboards, magazines, sponsored posts. Her company, Devive Skincare, claimed to be eco-friendly and ethically sourced. Vanessa had always admired that, until one day she helped her friend Maya, a graphic designer, on a side project. Maya had been hired anonymously to create internal slides for a brand audit. The client, Devive Skincare. "Why would they outsource this to me instead of their own team?" Maya asked, confused. As they flipped through the files, Vanessa noticed strange discrepancies, mismatched inventory records, vague supplier contracts, and unusually high consulting fees routed to a shell company. She shouldn't have clicked on the password-protected folder, but curiosity got the better of her. She tried Delilah's birthday. It worked. What she found inside made her blood run cold. Invoices, fake reports, internal memos with instructions on how to minimize traceability and leverage media distractions. It wasn't just shady. It was illegal. Vanessa sat frozen, her laptop casting a pale blue glow in the dark room. For years, she had felt small next to her sister. But now, she felt powerful and terrified. She copied the files onto a hard drive and kept them hidden for weeks, unsure of what to do. This wasn't just a sibling rivalry anymore. This was crime deception and public image warfare. And for once, Vanessa held the truth. What she chose to do next would shake not only her family, but the entire empire her sister had built. Vanessa didn't sleep the night she uncovered the truth. Her mind raced through every possible outcome. Exposing Delilah could mean destroying her career, ruining her reputation, and severing ties with the only family Vanessa had ever known. But staying silent meant allowing corruption to continue unchecked and letting Delilah continue to profit from lies. She stared at the hard drive, resting on her desk like a ticking bomb. For a week, she did nothing. Then another. But the pressure inside her kept building. It all changed one rainy afternoon at a networking mixer hosted by a local women's business coalition. Vanessa attended reluctantly, mostly because Maya insisted. She wasn't planning to stay long. That was until she heard the MC announce, "Please welcome our keynote speaker, entrepreneur, innovator, and our inspiration tonight, Delilah Carter." The room erupted in applause as Delilah took the stage, in a sleek white suit, glowing like a lighthouse. Vanessa froze. She hadn't known Delilah was part of the program. Delilah began her speech with warmth and charm, talking about building Devive Skincare from her dorm room, about empowering women, and about staying authentic and ethical in a ruthless world. Her voice carried with conviction. Her smile was magnetic. Vanessa clenched her fists. Afterward, the two sisters locked eyes across the room. Delilah's face lit up. She walked over, arms open. "Vanessa, Well, I didn't know you were here, she said, pulling her into a hug. You look great. Vanessa forced a smile. You too. It was the first time in years they had spoken face to face. Delilah chatted as if nothing had ever been wrong, asking about Vanessa's job, mentioning how proud their mom was of everything she was doing. There was no trace of guilt. No sense that Delilah knew what Vanessa had discovered. Vanessa felt like she was drowning in sweet poison. That night, something inside her snapped. She reached out to an investigative journalist she'd met once while organizing a charity event. Her name was Fiona Cortez, a sharp, relentless reporter known for taking down corrupt local politicians and corporate scammers. Vanessa emailed her with the subject line, "You're going to want to see this." Fiona responded in less than an hour. They met in secret. Vanessa showed her everything: financial documents, internal emails, supplier lists from sweatshops in Bangladesh, and photo evidence that completely contradicted Deviv's eco-friendly claims. Fiona was stunned. "This is massive," she whispered. "You understand what happens when this goes public?" "Right," Vanessa nodded. "I do. But it's the truth." Over the next few weeks, Fiona and her team quietly built the case. But they needed one more thing to tie everything together: public confrontation. A face. A moment. A voice to trigger attention. Fate handed Vanessa that opportunity. Delilah was being honored at the city's annual Women of Vision Gala, a televised event with high-profile sponsors, business leaders, and local politicians in attendance. And by some cruel twist, their mother had nominated Vanessa to present the award. "Isn't that sweet?" her mother gushed. "You finally get to do something for your sister." Vanessa stared at the email invitation in disbelief. For a moment, she almost declined. But then, what better stage to reveal the truth than the one built to worship a lie the night of the gala? Vanessa wore a simple black dress. No glitter, no shimmer, just focus. Fiona was in the audience along with a dozen other media contacts who had been tipped off anonymously. The files had been uploaded and scheduled for release 5 minutes after Vanessa's speech began. As she walked onto the stage, applause rang through the ballroom. Delilah stood in the front row, smiling graciously, her hand over her heart. Vanessa took a breath. "Tonight, I am honored to present the Woman of Vision Award," she began, voice steady, to someone the world sees as a symbol of integrity, success, and leadership. Delilah's name appeared on the screen behind her. People clapped again. "But before I hand over this award," Vanessa continued, "I'd like to speak the truth, something this award and this audience deserves to hear." A hush fell over the room. "I'm Vanessa Carter, the younger sister, the one who was always told to follow in Delilah's footsteps. But tonight I'm not following anyone, I'm standing." Gasps echoed. Delilah's smile froze. "I've spent my life watching this woman shine, admiring her, resenting her, and eventually uncovering what she hoped no one ever would. The truth behind her company, the exploitation, the fraud, the deception." Security stirred. Murmurs swelled. "I have submitted all documentation to the press. Right now as I speak, every file is being published. This is not revenge. This is reality. And I won't be silent anymore." Delilah stood up. "Vanessa, what are you? Sit down." Vanessa said, her voice sharp. "You've had the microphone long enough." The room erupted into chaos. Cameras clicked. Reporters scrambled. Guests whispered furiously. Delilah's publicist ran to the stage, but the damage was done. By the next morning, every major outlet was covering the scandal. Headlines blared skincare, mogul, exposed by sister-in-Livy. TV bombshell, Divive under federal investigation for fraud. Labor violations, social media exploded. Supporters turned critics. Investors fled. Delilah's empire began to collapse. And as for Vanessa, she stayed quiet, not smug, not vengeful, just quiet. For the first time in her life, the world was finally seeing her. But with truth comes consequences, and not all of them are fair. In the next part, Vanessa faces the harsh backlash from those closest to her and makes a life-altering decision that changes everything. Part 4. Climax and emotional breaking point. 1,100 words. The fallout came faster than Vanessa could have imagined. Within 48 hours of her public reveal, the media storm had reached a fever pitch. News anchors dissected every frame of the gala video. Delilah's face, once seen on billboards with captions like clean, conscious, confident, was now plastered beside words like fraud scandal and liar. But what no one prepared Vanessa for was what came next: her own family turning on her. It started with the phone call from her mother. "I hope you're proud of yourself," her voice hissed through the receiver. "You humiliated your sister on national television." Vanessa sat in stunned silence. "Did you even read the articles, Mom? She's been stealing, lying, exploiting people. She's your sister. Family protects family," her mother barked. "You don't air dirty laundry to strangers like some bitter disappointment." That word, disappointment, it hit harder than any insult. "I protected the truth," Vanessa said quietly. "Something none of you ever wanted to see." The call ended abruptly. No apology. No understanding. Just more of the same message she'd heard her whole life. You're not enough. And when you finally do something, it's the wrong thing. The rest of the family followed suit. Aunt's cousins, even her father, all either called to scold her or remained eerily silent. The only one who reached out in support was her cousin Talia, who messaged, "I always knew something was off. Proud of you, V." But one message couldn't drown out the sea of silence. In the days that followed, Vanessa became the unwilling center of attention. Some strangers praised her for being brave. Others called her jealous, opportunistic, a sister scorned. She tried not to read the comments, but sometimes curiosity won. She just wanted to take her sister down. Bitter much if she was any good, she'd have her own company instead of destroying someone else's. It wasn't just trolls. Even respected outlets questioned her motives. Did sibling rivalry push Vanessa Carter to go public? One headline mused. Vanessa felt like the world was shaking under her feet. She had told the truth. She had done the right thing. So why did it feel so hollow? The worst came a week later when she passed by her childhood home. Her mother still lived there, and Vanessa, feeling a strange urge, decided to knock. The door opened, but only halfway. Her mother stood there cold and unreadable. "If you came here to explain yourself, don't bother." "I came here to talk," Vanessa said. "Not fight." Her mother sighed, but opened the door. The house smelled the same rosemary and lemon oil, the scent of Sunday dinners and childhood routines. But everything else felt foreign, tense. They sat across from each other in the living room. Vanessa noticed the framed photo of Delilah on the mantel in her Miss State tiara. Why does her success mean I had to be invisible? Vanessa finally asked. Her voice cracked. Why did you make me feel like I never mattered? Her mother scoffed. You were always so sensitive. No, Vanessa snapped. I was surviving. She leaned forward, the weight of years pressing down on her chest. You built her up like she was a queen, and I spent my entire life proving I was even worth a glance. And when I finally had something real to say, when I stood up for something true, you didn't ask a single question. You just blamed me. Her mother looked away, her jaw clenched. I didn't raise you to be cruel, she murmured. No, Vanessa said, standing up, tears brimming. You raised me to stay quiet. She walked out without another word. That night, Vanessa sat alone on her apartment floor, the hard drive still sitting on her desk like a ghost. She hadn't turned the TV on in days. She didn't want to see more opinions, more spin. She stared at the floor, knees drawn to her chest, and let the weight of it all crash into her. The years of neglect, the effort to prove herself, the betrayal of her own blood. And now, this loneliness, the kind that comes not from losing something, but from realizing maybe you never truly had it. She cried harder than she had in years, the kind of cry that felt like unraveling, that gutted you from the inside. And when the tears dried, something inside her shifted. Not bitterness, not vengeance, clarity. Vanessa realized she had been fighting for love and validation from people who only ever saw her as a reflection of someone else. And that fight had cost her more than it had given. She didn't regret exposing the truth. But now she understood her worth was not tied to their approval or their shame. A few days later, Vanessa resigned from her job, not out of guilt, but out of the deep, burning need to start over on her own terms. She packed up her apartment, left the city, and moved to a quiet coastal town where no one knew her name. She took the settlement offered by a media outlet that had profited from her story and used it to rent a small studio space. It wasn't fancy. It didn't have a view, but it was hers. For the first time, she wasn't chasing anyone's spotlight. She was building her own lamp. Quietly, steadily. She began sketching out an idea for a boutique brand, minimalist ethical reel. No influencers, no flashy promises. Just something honest. Just hers. Mornings in the coastal town were slow and quiet, exactly what Vanessa needed. Gone were the city sirens and forced smiles of PR meetings. Now she woke to seagulls, brewed her own coffee, and took long walks by the sea, where no one looked at her, as Delilah's sister or that girl from the gala. Here, she was just Vanessa, and for the first time that felt like enough. But healing, she learned, wasn't a straight line. Some days she felt at peace. Other days, grief crept in grief, for the family she'd lost, for the years spent chasing crumbs of validation, and for the naive hope that telling the truth would finally set her free. It did set her free, but not without cost. Still, she stayed in the quiet, in the space between what was and what might be. She journaled, she sketched, she poured herself into late-night ideas for a skincare brand that meant something not just surface-level beauty, but soul-deep honesty. No marketing gimmicks, no fake ethics, just real ingredients, real transparency, and real stories. But even with her ideas growing, something was missing, a push forward. A confirmation that this new direction wasn't just a coping mechanism, but a calling. That push came from someone unexpected. One afternoon, Vanessa was restocking notebooks at the local stationery store when an older woman approached her. Kind eyes, wind-swept hair. She introduced herself as Joanne, a retired biochemist who'd moved to the town to be closer to her grandchildren. "You're the woman from the news, aren't you?" Joanne asked gently. Vanessa tensed. Yeah, I guess so. I just wanted to say thank you," Joanne said. "I worked in that industry for years. I saw too many companies like your sister's greenwashing, manipulating data, exploiting loopholes. But no one ever said anything. You did. That matters." Vanessa felt a lump rise in her throat. "Sometimes it doesn't feel like it mattered." "It did," Joanne said firmly. "And if you're thinking about starting something of your own, I'd be honored to help. You don't need a lab. You just need integrity." They talked for hours about product formulas, supply chains, how to scale ethically. Joanne offered her time, her notes, and her support. That night, Vanessa sat on the floor of her studio surrounded by notebooks and prototypes. She stared at her brand name, scribbled on the wall. Unfiltered. She didn't want to create another beauty line. She wanted to create something truthful, something built on all the pain she had survived and all the clarity she had gained. And this time she wasn't doing it to prove anything to anyone. Not to her mother, not to Delilah, not to the world. This was for her. She got up, crossed the room, and picked up a thick black marker. She drew a bold circle around the word unfiltered, then underlined it twice. Decision made. She would launch the brand. Small, quiet, honest. She would invest in herself. Over the next few weeks, Joanne introduced her to a few retired colleagues who believed in ethical innovation. Vanessa registered the company, started developing her first line of products, and built a simple website herself. No frills, no flashy banners. Just her story or values, and a promise: no filters, no lies. Each step forward was slow but deeply intentional, and each night Vanessa felt more whole. One afternoon she received an email. The subject line read, "Media Feature Request, Vanessa Carter's second act." She stared at the screen. It was from a national journalist offering a long-form feature about her journey, her brand and life after the scandal. Vanessa didn't answer right away. She closed her laptop, stepped outside, and walked to the edge of the shoreline. The waves were strong that day, and for a moment she stood barefoot in the surf, letting the salt water pull and push at her feet. She thought about the girl who once begged her mother to look at a science fair ribbon, the woman who stood on stage and told the truth, and the business owner she was becoming, now whole unseen by most, but finally visible to herself. She walked back to the studio, sat down, and typed her reply, "Thank you for reaching out. I'm not interested in revisiting the scandal, but I'd be happy to talk about what comes after." Then she clicked send. Launching Unfiltered was more than a business move. It was Vanessa's reclamation. She poured everything into the brand: honesty, sustainability, transparency. No silent investors. No marketing manipulation. Just the truth in amber glass jars. Orders were modest at first, but word spread. The real turning point came 6 months after launch, when a popular ethical beauty blogger posted a glowing review. "Finally," she wrote, "a brand that doesn't sell shame in a pretty package." Orders tripled overnight. Meanwhile, Devive Skincare, the empire Delilah once ruled, was unraveling. With the investigation complete, federal charges were filed. Delilah was indicted for wire fraud and deceptive advertising. Footage of her being escorted from a courtroom clad in designer sunglasses, lips tight, went viral with the caption, "Queen of Clean Caught Dirty." The media that once worshipped her now tore her apart. Major retailers pulled Devive from shelves. Her brand, once valued at $80 million, collapsed to nothing. At a local conference on ethical entrepreneurship, Vanessa was invited to speak. She nearly declined until she saw her mother's name among the attendees. Vanessa walked onto the stage in a simple navy dress. No makeup, no flash. Just a quiet, unshakable presence. "My name is Vanessa Carter," she began. "For years I was told I wasn't enough. That truth didn't matter. That integrity was optional. But today I stand here not in revenge, but in renewal." Applause followed her off stage. Her mother didn't speak to her afterward, but Vanessa caught a glimpse of her in the crowd, silent eyes misted. Not proud, but no longer dismissive. That was enough. And for the first time, the people who had overlooked Vanessa were being forced to watch her rise, not in scandal, but in grace. Vanessa no longer lived in anyone's shadow. She woke each morning, not wondering how others saw her, but how she saw herself. The noise had faded. The comparisons no longer stung. She had finally drawn a line between who she was told to be and who she truly was. Unfiltered continued to grow slowly, deliberately. Not viral, not flashy, but real, just like her. She no longer needed applause. She didn't crave headlines. What she had now was worth far more self-respect, clarity, and peace. Delilah faded from the spotlight. Their family never fully healed, but Vanessa made peace with that too, because she had learned something powerful. When you stop begging to be chosen, you start choosing yourself. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about boundaries. About the quiet courage it takes to walk away from people who only value your silence. Vanessa's journey reminds us that telling the truth may cost you comfort, but it gives you freedom. If her story resonated with you, share it. Comment below. Subscribe for more stories of strength, healing, and justice. Or tell us, when did you choose yourself, even when it hurt? Because sometimes walking away is the loudest way to be heard.